I smiled while he fucked her in our bed. Because I was already wiring his money to my secret account. I still can't believe I thought it would be funny. Our wedding had been perfect. White roses everywhere, champagne that tasted like victory, and Daniel looking at me like I was the only woman in the world. By the time we stumbled into the honeymoon suite, laughing and half drunk on each other, I was floating. I wanted to surprise him one last time before we officially became husband and wife in every filthy, beautiful way. So I hid under the bed. It was childish, I know. But I pictured him walking in, calling my name, maybe panicking a little when he didn't see me, then me sliding out like some sexy horror movie villain to pounce on him. I even muffled my giggles with my palm while I watched his polished shoes cross the threshold. The door clicked shut. I waited. Then I heard heels. Sharp, confident clicks, not mine. My smile froze. The bedroom door opened again. A woman's voice, low and teasing, floated down to me. "Finally alone, baby." Daniel laughed. That soft, intimate laugh he usually saved for me. "God, I thought tonight would never end," he said. "She's so fucking clingy." My heart slammed against my ribs so hard I was sure they could hear it. I pressed myself flatter against the carpet, suddenly aware of every dust particle, every breath I was trying not to take too loudly. The bed creaked as someone, her, sat down. Then him. The mattress dipped right above my head. "You still sure about this?" she asked. "More sure than ever," Daniel replied. His voice had changed. No more tenderness, just cold calculation. "She signed the prenup, but her father's trust is still in her name. Once I get added to the title on the house and the investment accounts, we're set." A pause. I could almost see her smiling. "And after?" she whispered. "After." Daniel's tone turned darker, almost amused. "Accidents happen. A fall down the stairs, a bad reaction to her sleeping pills. No one's going to question it. She's always been fragile." My blood turned to ice. Then another voice, older, sharper, unmistakable, Daniel's mother. "You two better not screw this up," she hissed from somewhere near the doorway. I hadn't even heard her come in. "That little bitch thinks she's so smart with her daddy's money. But once she's gone, everything becomes ours. The beach house, the stocks, the offshore account she doesn't even know about yet. And don't forget, your son needs a real family, not this placeholder." The woman, Lily, I realized with sickening clarity, laughed softly. "He's going to have a real family soon enough," she said, and I could hear the smug satisfaction. 3 months along already. Daniel chuckled again. "Our boy's going to have the life he deserves." I lay there, numb, while they kept talking. Dates, bank transfers, how they'd stage the grieving husband act for the media, how much life insurance they could claim. Every word was a knife twisting deeper. The girl I'd been 5 minutes ago, the one who'd worn white lace and cried happy tears, was gone. In her place was someone else, someone who didn't cry, someone who listened, memorized every detail, and started counting. They didn't know I was there. They didn't know I'd just become their worst fucking nightmare, and they had no idea how patient I could be. They kept talking. I stayed perfectly still, cheek pressed to the cold hardwood floor, dust tickling my nose while the 3 people I'd trusted most in the world laid out my murder like it was just another Tuesday agenda item. Daniel's voice was calm, almost bored. "The trust is already structured so that if anything happens to her before she turns 35, the bulk of it rolls into a joint account we control. Oh, I just need her to sign the amendment adding me as co-trustee on the real estate portfolio. She'll do it. She thinks we're building a future together." Lily laughed. That soft, breathy sound I'd once mistaken for friendly when she'd shown up at our engagement party as Daniel's old college friend. "She's so naive," Lily said. "Last week she was gushing to me about how you two were going to renovate the lake house for our kids." "Our kids? God, the irony," Daniel snorted. "She'll sign. I'll frame it as romantic. Let's make sure everything is in both our names so nothing can ever separate us." "She eats that shit up," his mother cut in, voice like broken glass. "Make it quick. I'm not waiting another year. The market's hot right now. We sell the beach property the minute she's gone, and we're looking at 8 figures after taxes. And don't forget the life insurance, 2 million primary beneficiary designation. You already changed it last month, right?" "Done," Daniel said. "She never even noticed. She trusts me implicitly." The word trust landed like a slap. I felt something inside me crack. Not heartbreak exactly, more like the last thread of whatever fairy tale version of love I'd been clinging to finally snapped. They kept going. Details, timelines, contingencies. Lily. "What if she gets suspicious?" Daniel. "She won't. I'll keep her busy. More trips, more gifts, more sex. She's easy to distract." Mother. "And if she does figure it out?" A pause. The mattress shifted again as someone stood. Daniel's voice dropped low. "Then we accelerate. Car accident, overdose, whatever looks cleanest. I've already got the pills. Enough fentanyl to make it look like she mixed it with her anxiety meds. Coroner will call it accidental. Case closed." Lily giggled. "You're so thorough, babe." I closed my eyes for a second, forcing air into my lungs slowly, silently. My wedding dress was bunched around my thighs, the lace scratching my skin. The same dress I'd cried happy tears in 12 hours earlier. They were still talking logistics, how Daniel would play the devastated widower on CNN, how Lily would comfort him in private, how their son would grow up in the house I'd inherited from my father, sleeping in the nursery I'd already started decorating in pale blue. I wasn't his wife. I was livestock, a walking ATM with an expiration date. The conversation drifted towards smaller things, dinner reservations, whose turn it was to pick up dry cleaning, like they hadn't just casually discussed killing me. Like I wasn't right there, breathing the same air. Eventually, the voices moved away. Footsteps. The bedroom door opened and closed. Silence settled over the room like snow. I waited another 10 minutes, maybe 15, just to be sure. Then I slid out. My limbs felt foreign, heavy and electric at the same time. I stood in the middle of our honeymoon suite, staring at the rumpled bed where my brand new husband had just fucked his pregnant mistress while planning my funeral. No tears came, no scream, just a cold, clear certainty blooming somewhere deep in my chest. They thought they were the hunters. They were wrong. I reached for my phone on the nightstand, silent mode, of course, and opened the voice memo app. I hit record. Then I started whispering every single detail I could remember. Names, dates, amounts, methods, evidence. Because if they wanted to play this game, I was going to play it better. And when I was finished, I was going to burn their entire world to the ground, starting with the smile I'd wear tomorrow morning when I kissed my husband good morning like nothing had changed. Because nothing had. Everything had just finally become real. I didn't scream. I didn't storm out of the honeymoon suite and throw my wedding ring in Daniel's face. I didn't call my father or my lawyer or the police. I just stood there in the dim glow of the bedside lamp, staring at the bed where they'd all sat planning my death like it was a grocery list. My pulse was still hammering, but the panic had already burned itself out, leaving something colder and sharper behind. I slipped out of the room barefoot, carrying my heels in one hand, phone in the other. The hallway was empty. I took the service elevator down to the lobby, didn't want to risk running into any of them in the main one. Outside, the night air hit me like a slap, but I didn't feel it. I walked 2 blocks to a 24-hour pharmacy, bought a cheap burner phone with cash, then found an all-night diner 3 streets over. I sat in the back booth, ordered black coffee I wouldn't drink, and started working. First, the voice memo from under the bed. I transferred it to the burner, emailed a copy to an encrypted Proton Mail account I created right there, password so long it made my thumbs ache. Then I deleted the original from my real phone. No traces. Next, notes. I typed everything I could remember into the Notes app on the burner. Exact phrases, timelines, names, Lily, 3 months pregnant, fentanyl, life insurance, beach house sale, 2 million. The co-trustee amendment. I even jotted down the way Daniel's mother had said, "that little bitch," like it was her favorite pet name for me. I saved it all, backed it up to the cloud under a fake name. Then I powered the burner off and tucked it into the lining of my purse, behind the tampon stash where no one would ever look. By the time the sky started turning gray, I had the skeleton of a plan. I wasn't going to confront them. Confrontation is for people who still believe in justice, in apologies, in second chances. I didn't believe in any of those things anymore. I was going to play the long game. I was going to smile. I was going to kiss him good morning. I was going to cook him breakfast, laugh at his jokes, let him fuck me if he wanted, whatever kept his guard down. I was going to be the perfect, trusting, and oblivious wife they all thought I was. And while I did that, I was going to collect every scrap of evidence they were stupid enough to leave lying around. Bank statements, text threads, hidden cameras if I had to install them myself, witnesses, medical records for Lily's pregnancy, proof of the life insurance switch, recordings of every future conversation I could catch. They thought they were the only ones with a script. They were wrong. I finished my untouched coffee, left a 20 on the table, and walked back to the hotel just as the sun cracked the horizon. I stopped in the lobby bathroom, fixed my makeup, smoothed my hair, practiced the soft, sleepy smile I'd give Daniel when he woke up and asked where I'd been. "I couldn't sleep," I'd say. "Went for a little walk. Missed you already." He'd believe it. He always believed the version of me he wanted to see. I rode the elevator back up to our suite, slipped inside quietly, and slid back into bed beside him. His arm automatically draped over me in his sleep, heavy and possessive. I stared at the ceiling and let him hold me. Inside my chest, something new was growing, small, quiet, patient, not anger, not anymore. Revenge, clean, cold, calculated. They'd made me the victim. Now I was going to make them the prey. And unlike them, I wasn't going to rush. I had time. I had evidence. And most importantly, I had them convinced I was still in love with a man who wanted me dead. That was my first real weapon. I turned my head, pressed a soft kiss to his shoulder, and whispered into the dark so quietly even I barely heard it. "Sleep well, darling. Because when you wake up, the game begins. And I'm playing to win." Morning light sliced through the blackout curtains like it was trying to apologize for last night. I woke up before Daniel did, hadn't really slept, and slipped out of bed without disturbing him. My body moved on autopilot, brushing teeth, washing face, pulling on the soft silk robe he'd bought me as a surprise 2 months ago. I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror and practiced the smile. Soft, warm, just a little sleepy and adoring. The kind of smile that says, "You're my whole world and I'm the luckiest girl alive." It looked convincing, even to me. Back in the bedroom, I opened the curtains just enough to let golden stripes fall across the bed. Daniel stirred, groaning, one arm flung over his eyes. "Morning, handsome," I said, voice honey-sweet. I climbed onto the mattress, straddling his hips lightly, and leaned down to kiss his forehead. "How's my husband feeling after our big night?" He cracked one eye open, then grinned, that lazy, charming grin that used to make my stomach flip. Now it just made me catalog every micro-expression for later use. "Like I married a goddess," he murmured, hands sliding up my thighs. "Where'd you disappear to last night? I woke up and you were gone." I laughed softly, the sound I'd rehearsed in the diner bathroom at 4 a.m. Couldn't sleep, too excited. I went down to the lobby, grabbed a coffee, watched the sunrise, thought about how lucky I am. I traced a finger along his jaw. "About us." His eyes softened. Perfect. He bought it. I slid off him before he could pull me back under the sheets. "Stay right there. I'm making you breakfast in bed. First morning as a married man deserves the royal treatment." He propped himself up on his elbows, watching me with that possessive look he always got when he thought he had me wrapped around his finger. "You're too good to me, baby." I flashed him another smile over my shoulder as I headed to the suite's kitchenette. Only the best for my man. While the coffee brewed and I scrambled eggs the way he liked them, extra pepper, no chives, I let my mind run parallel tracks. Track 1, loving wife, humming softly, plating fruit like it mattered. Track 2, mental inventory, voice memo secured, burner phone hidden, first pieces of evidence locked away. Next steps, check his laptop for browser history when he showers. Plant a small voice recorder in the living room if I can get 5 minutes alone later. Smile through it all. I carried the tray back in, coffee, eggs, toast, fresh strawberries, and set it across his lap. Then I curled up beside him, head on his shoulder, watching him eat like it was the most romantic thing in the world. "You're quiet," he said after a few bites, glancing at me. I tilted my head, eyes wide and innocent. "Just happy. Last night was everything. I still can't believe you're mine." He set the fork down, cupped my face, and kissed me slow and deep. I kissed him back exactly the way I used to. Eager, yielding, a little breathless. My hands went to his hair like they belonged there. Inside, I was counting heartbeats, measuring how long he held the kiss, filing away the faint scent of Lily's perfume still clinging to his skin from wherever they'd been before he came back to bed. When he pulled away, he looked satisfied. Smug, even. "Good girl," he murmured, brushing his thumb over my bottom lip. "Keep being this sweet and I'll give you anything you want." I smiled again, smaller this time, shy. "I already have everything I want. You." He laughed, pleased, and went back to his eggs. I stayed curled against him, playing with the edge of the sheet, letting the silence stretch just long enough to feel comfortable, domestic, safe. They thought I was still the naive little heiress who'd fallen head over heels for the handsome charmer. They thought I was blind, trusting, breakable. They had no idea I was already rewriting the ending. And the best part? They were going to hand me every tool I needed to destroy them, because they were too arrogant to imagine I'd ever stop being their perfect mark. I pressed another kiss to his shoulder. "Love you," I whispered. He squeezed my hand. "Love you more." I didn't flinch. I just filed that lie away with all the others, and kept smiling. 3 weeks after the wedding, she showed up at our front door. Lily. Not sneaking in through the back like some guilty mistress. No. She rang the bell like she belonged there. Bright smile, designer maternity dress hugging the small but unmistakable curve of her belly. A gift bag dangling from one manicured hand. Daniel had casually mentioned she might stop by. "Old friend from college," he'd said over breakfast. "She's going through a rough patch. Thought we could be nice." I'd nodded, wide-eyed. "Of course, babe. Anyone important to you is important to me." Inside, my blood was boiling so hot I could taste copper. I opened the door before he could get there, because I wanted to be the first one she saw. I wanted her to look into my eyes and see nothing but welcome. "Lily!" I exclaimed, voice pitched exactly right. Surprised delight, not a trace of venom. I pulled her into a hug before she could react, careful not to crush the bump. "Oh my God, look at you! You're glowing!" She stiffened for half a second, barely noticeable, then melted into the embrace like we were long-lost sisters. "Hey, girl," she purred. "I hope this isn't a bad time?" "Never," I said, pulling back to beam at her. Come in. Daniel's in the study, but he'll be out in a sec." I led her into the living room, the one I'd decorated myself, with the cream sofa I'd picked out because it reminded me of my mom's old house, the throw pillows I'd sewn during lockdown when I was still dreaming about the family we'd build here. Now every inch of it felt like a crime scene. Daniel appeared a minute later, casual in a polo and jeans, like this was just another Saturday. He kissed her cheek, platonic, friendly, the way you kiss a cousin, and then came straight to me, sliding an arm around my waist. "See? Told you she'd be thrilled to see you." I leaned into him, resting my head on his shoulder. I'm so happy you came. Really. Sit, sit. Can I get you something? Sparkling water, herbal tea. I've got that ginger kind that's supposed to help with morning sickness. Lily laughed, settling onto my sofa like she owned it. You're too sweet. Water's perfect. While I fetched it from the kitchen, I listened to them murmur. Low, comfortable, the kind of ease that only comes from years of secrets. I caught fragments. Doctor says everything's on track. He's already kicking like crazy. Can't wait to tell everyone. I came back smiling, handed her the glass, and sat right beside her, close enough that our knees almost touched. So, I said brightly, tell me everything. How far along are you now? Boy or girl, have you picked names yet? She glanced at Daniel. He gave her the tiniest nod, then turned back to me with that practiced vulnerability. Almost 14 weeks. We're keeping the gender a surprise, but we've got a short list. And honestly, I've been so scared to tell people. It's complicated, you know? Single mom, new city. I reached over and squeezed her hand. Hey, you're not alone anymore. You've got us. Her eyes shimmered. Oscar-worthy, really. You have no idea how much that means. Daniel watched us with that satisfied little smirk, like he'd orchestrated the perfect scene. I excused myself after a few more minutes of small talk. I'll grab something for you to take home, and disappeared into the hallway. In the guest room closet, I pulled out the box I'd prepared 2 days earlier. A pale blue cashmere baby blanket from Barney's. $400, monogrammed with a tiny L because I'd pretended I didn't know the father yet. A set of organic cotton onesies in neutral colors. A silver rattle from Tiffany. And on top, a handwritten card. To the little one who's already so loved. Can't wait to meet you. Welcome to the family. Your aunt. My name. I wrapped it all in thick cream paper, tied it with silk ribbon, and carried it back out like it was nothing. Here, I said, setting the box in her lap. Just a little welcome gift. For the baby. And for you. Lily's fingers froze on the ribbon. For one glorious second, I saw it. The flicker of confusion, maybe even fear. Why was I being this nice? Why wasn't I clawing her eyes out? Then she recovered, blinking rapidly. This is... wow. You didn't have to do this. I wanted to, I said softly. We're going to be in each other's lives now, right? Might as well start on the right foot. Daniel's hand found my shoulder, squeezing approval. That's my girl, always thinking of others. Lily opened the box. Her breath caught when she saw the Tiffany rattle. This is too much. Nonsense, I waved it off. Nothing's too much for family. The word hung in the air like smoke. She looked up at me then, really looked, and I met her gaze without flinching. My smile never wavered. Sweet, innocent, completely heartbreakingly clueless. Inside, I was screaming. But on the outside, I was the perfect hostess, the perfect wife, the perfect fool. They left an hour later, Lily clutching the gift bag like it was evidence she'd won something. Daniel kissed me long and slow at the door, murmuring, "You're incredible, you know that?" I kissed him back. Only because I have you. The door closed. I stood there in the foyer, listening to their car pull away. Then I walked straight to the small safe I'd installed behind the bookshelf in my office the week before. I opened it, added today's audio clip, recorded discreetly from the living room plant I'd bugged with a tiny device I'd ordered online, and closed it again. They thought they were playing me. They thought the snake in the house was Lily. They had no idea I was the one coiled in the shadows now, and when I struck, it wouldn't be loud. It would be surgical, silent, and final. The honeymoon glow had worn off just enough that Daniel stopped watching me quite so closely. He started leaving his phone on the nightstand when he showered. He stopped locking his laptop when he stepped out for a call. Small cracks in the facade, arrogance disguised as comfort. I noticed every single one. I didn't rush. I waited until he flew to Chicago for a 2-day investor meeting that I knew was really a long weekend with Lily and Aspen. He kissed me goodbye at the airport curb like the devoted husband he pretended to be. I waved until his car disappeared around the curve, then drove straight home and got to work. First, the cameras. I ordered them online using a prepaid Visa card I'd bought with cash at a gas station 2 towns over. Tiny, wireless, motion-activated pinhole lenses disguised as smoke detectors, USB chargers, picture frame stands. I installed 4 myself, one in the living room behind the TV console, one in the kitchen above the cabinets, one in the master bedroom tucked into the bookshelf facing the bed, and one in the home office pointed at his desk. The feeds streamed to an encrypted cloud account only I could access. No app on my phone that could be discovered. Just silent, invisible eyes. I tested them that same afternoon. Watched myself walk through the living room on my laptop screen, heart rate steady for the first time in weeks. It felt like power. Next, the money. Daniel had always handled our joint finances with the casual confidence of someone who thought I'd never look too hard. I'd never needed to, until now. While he was gone, I logged into the shared banking portal using the password he'd typed in front of me once when he was distracted. People are so careless when they think you're harmless. I scrolled through the last 6 months of transactions. There it was. Multiple transfers to an account labeled LM Consulting. Small ones at first, $2,500 here, $4,000 there, then bigger, $15,000 2 weeks after the wedding, $22,000 last month. Labeled vaguely as business expense reimbursement or client gift. I downloaded every statement as PDFs, saved them to an external drive I kept in a locked drawer in my office, then wiped my browser history and logged out. I cross-checked the routing numbers against a quick Google search on my burner phone. The account belonged to Lily Marie Callahan. Same last name as the one on the baby blanket I'd gifted her. Cute. I wasn't done. I opened a new tab in incognito mode and searched for private investigators in the city, ones with good reviews for discretion and infidelity cases. I picked the one with the cleanest website and no flashy catch-your-cheating-spouse ads. Just a simple contact form. I emailed from a fresh Proton Mail account. Subject: confidential consultation request. Body married 6 weeks. Suspect husband has been unfaithful for longer. Need full background on a third party. Female, pregnant, financial trails, communications if possible. Timeline urgent but must remain completely discreet. No contact with subject. Budget flexible. Please advise availability and next steps. I attached a scanned copy of my driver's license, redacted address, and hit send. The reply came within 2 hours. Available for initial consult tomorrow, 10 a.m. virtual. $500 retainer to start. Cash App or wire. Full report within 7 to 10 days depending on depth. Discretion guaranteed. I wired the money from a separate account I'd opened in my maiden name months ago. Emergency fund my father had insisted on when I got engaged. Daniel never knew about it. Another small secret I'd kept. That night I sat alone in the dark living room, laptop open to the camera feeds. The house was quiet except for the faint hum of the fridge. I watched the empty rooms like they were a stage waiting for actors. I wasn't the victim hiding under the bed anymore. I was the director now. Every frame they gave me was ammunition. Every transfer was a receipt. Every late-night text I'd catch on camera would be another nail. They thought they were building a future on my grave. I was building a case file that would bury them instead. I leaned back against the couch, closed my eyes for the first time in days without panic clawing at me. Sleep came slow, but when it did, it was dreamless, clean. Because tomorrow the real work began. And this time I wasn't pretending anymore. I was preparing to end them. The first time the cameras caught them together in our house, I wasn't even home. Daniel had texted me around noon. "Running late at the office, babe. Don't wait up for dinner." Classic. I replied with a heart emoji and "miss you already" before heading to a coffee shop across town with my laptop. I sat in a corner booth, coffee hood up, earbuds in, and opened the private feed. There they were. Daniel and Lily, right in our living room, my living room, sprawled on the cream sofa I'd picked out because it felt like home. She had her feet in his lap, one hand resting on the swell of her belly. He was scrolling through something on his phone, laughing low. I turned up the volume on my earbuds. The hidden mic in the picture frame stand picked up every word crystal clear. "The amendment's ready," Daniel was saying. "Her lawyer sent it over yesterday. All I need is her signature. I told her it's just paperwork to protect us both if anything happens to her dad's estate. She cried when I said it made her feel safe." Lily snorted. "God, she's pathetic. Does she really think you're going to grow old with her?" "Not if I can help it," he replied, voice flat. "Once the house is in both our names and the trust's co-managed, we move fast. I've got the pills ready, same batch the pharmacist owed me a favor for. Mix it with her nightly chamomile, wait till she's out cold, then stage it. She'll look like she just gave up. Grieving widow story writes itself." Lily leaned in, tracing a finger down his chest. "And the beach house? Your mom's already talking to the realtor, wants to list it the week after the funeral." "Mom's impatient," Daniel said with a shrug. "But yeah, cash out, split 3 ways, us, her, and the kid. Then we disappear for a while. New names, new city, maybe Europe. Our boy deserves better than this second-rate life." "Our boy." The words hit like a dull blade, but I didn't flinch. I just sipped my latte and kept watching. Lily shifted, pulling out her own phone. Speaking of, look at this ultrasound pic. He's got your nose already." Daniel grinned, real affection this time. "Little man's gonna run the world." I paused the feed for a second, stared at the frozen image of them, smiling, touching, planning my death like it was vacation planning. Then I hit play again. They kept going. More details. The exact dosage of fentanyl. How Daniel would discover me in the morning, call 911, play the shattered husband for the cameras. How Lily would stay out of sight for a respectable 6 months before comforting him publicly. How the life insurance payout would cover the down payment on a place in Malibu. Every sentence was another brick in the wall I was building around them. I didn't feel rage anymore. That had burned clean months ago. What I felt now was something colder, cleaner. Control. But they were in my house, my glass house, laughing, fucking, scheming, never once looking up at the smoke detector in the corner, never wondering why the new USB charger on the side table had such a tiny, perfect lens. They thought they were the predators. They had no idea the entire habitat had been wired. I watched for another 40 minutes, long enough to catch them moving to the bedroom, clothes coming off, her moaning his name while he fucked her on the bed we still shared. I didn't look away. I recorded it all, time-stamped, saved, backed up 3 different ways. When they finally left, her slipping out the back door, him heading to pick up takeout so he could walk in later smelling like restaurant food, I closed the laptop, finished my coffee, and walked home. The house was empty again. Silent. I moved through the rooms like a ghost, touching nothing, just breathing it in. This wasn't their playground anymore. It was my observation deck, my kill box. I stopped in the bedroom doorway, stared at the rumpled sheets, the faint scent of her perfume still hanging in the air. Then I smiled. Small, private, the kind of smile no one else would ever see. They could keep plotting. They could keep fucking. They could keep dreaming about the money, the house, the future they thought was theirs. Because every second they spent inside these walls, they were handing me more rope. And when the time came, I wouldn't just hang them with it. I'd make sure the whole world watched them swing. I turned off the bedroom light and walked away. The cameras stayed on, always watching, always waiting. And for the first time since that night under the bed, I felt something close to peace. Because now the hunters were the hunted. And they didn't even know the cage had already snapped shut. It happened over Sunday dinner at my parents' house. Daniel had been dropping hints for weeks, little comments about how stressful work had become, how people at the club were whispering behind his back now that he'd married into money. "They think I'm just a gold digger," he'd say with that perfect mix of hurt and humility. Eyes downcast, voice cracking just enough to sell it. I'd always squeeze his hand, murmur, "They don't know you like I do," and watch him soak it up like validation. But tonight, he went full method actor. We were at the long mahogany table in the dining room, crystal glasses, silver polished to a mirror shine, my mother's famous roast lamb. Dad at the head, Mom to his right, me and Daniel across from them. The conversation had been light. Travel plans, the new wing at the art museum, how the market was treating the trust portfolio. Then Daniel set his fork down, slow and deliberate, like the weight of the world had just landed on his shoulders. "I've been meaning to talk to you both about something," he said, looking straight at my father. His voice was low, almost broken. I don't know how to say this without sounding pathetic." My mother leaned forward instantly. "Daniel, honey, what's wrong?" He exhaled, rubbed the back of his neck, the classic sign of a man fighting tears. "It's the way people look at me now, at the firm, at the club, even some of our so-called friends. They see the ring, they see the house we're in, and they assume I married my name for the money, like I'm some opportunist. Oh, like I don't love her more than anything in the world." He reached for my hand under the table and squeezed it, hard enough to look protective, gentle enough to feel sincere. I let my eyes go wide, soft, concerned. "Babe." "No, let me finish," he said, turning back to my parents. "I've tried to ignore it. I really have. But it's starting to eat at me. And worse, it's starting to affect us. People talk. They speculate. And if something ever happened to me, or to her..." His voice cracked here. Perfect timing. "I don't want anyone questioning whether I had a right to be by her side, whether I was entitled to protect what we built together." Dad frowned, setting his wineglass down. "What are you saying, son?" Daniel swallowed, eyes glistening now. God, he was good. "I'm asking if you'd consider adding my name to some of the major assets. The house, the main investment accounts, maybe the beach property. Not everything, just enough so that if the worst happens, no one can say I was never really part of the family. So I can stand up in front of the world and say, without hesitation, that I belong here, that I'm not just some guy who lucked into a fortune." Silence settled over the table like fog. Mom's hand flew to her chest. "Oh, Daniel." Dad studied him for a long beat, then looked at me. "Sweetheart, what do you think?" I blinked slowly, like I was processing something overwhelming. Then I turned to Daniel, let my voice tremble just a little. I had no idea it was hurting you this much. I hate that people are making you feel like that." Daniel's thumb stroked the back of my hand. "I didn't want to burden you. But I can't keep pretending it doesn't matter." I looked back at my father, eyes shining. "Dad, if it would make him feel secure, if it would stop the whispers, I think we should do it. He's my husband, he's family, and I trust him with everything." Dad nodded slowly, the way he does when he's weighing legacy against love. "We can talk to the lawyers tomorrow, draft something fair, joint ownership on the primary residence and the liquid assets. Nothing that jeopardizes the core trust, but enough to give you peace of mind, Daniel." Daniel exhaled like a man who'd just been pardoned. "Thank you, both of you. I don't know what to say." Mom reached across and patted his arm. "You don't have to say anything. We're just glad you're honest with us." I leaned over and kissed Daniel's cheek, soft and lingering. "I love you," I whispered. Loud enough for them to hear. "We're in this together." He turned and kissed me back, slow, tender, the picture of devotion. The rest of dinner passed in a warm haze of relief and gratitude. Daniel laughed at Dad's old stories, complimented Mom's cooking, held my hand like I was his lifeline. My parents beamed at us like we'd just renewed our vows. They had no idea. They had no idea that every word out of his mouth was rehearsed, that the tears were manufactured, that the vulnerability was a weapon aimed straight at my inheritance and ultimately at my life. But I knew. I sat there smiling, nodding, playing the supportive wife while the dramatic irony burned inside me like slow fire. The audience, my parents, saw a heartbroken husband begging for acceptance. I saw a predator walking right into the snare he thought he was setting. Because tomorrow, when the lawyers sent over the amendment, I wouldn't just sign it. I'd make sure every clause had a mirror image, one version for them to see and one hidden failsafe only I controlled. He wanted his name on my assets? Fine. I'd give it to him. And when the time came to collect, he'd find out exactly how expensive that signature really was. I squeezed his hand under the table one more time. He squeezed back, triumphant. I smiled into my wine glass. Checkmate in 3 moves, darling. And you don't even see the board. The lawyer's draft arrived exactly 3 days after Sunday dinner. 2 crisp PDFs in my inbox. One clean version for Daniel to review, the other the real one I'd quietly requested my father's estate attorney prepare in parallel. The difference was subtle, buried in Clause 7.2b. But a single line about irrevocable contingent reversion upon proven fraud or undue influence. My father's lawyer had worded it so delicately it looked like boilerplate protection for the family trust. Daniel would never spot it. Greed makes people skim. I printed both versions, marked the clean one with little sticky notes. "Looks perfect, babe," and left them on the kitchen island for him to find when he got home. He did. That night. I was in the living room pretending to scroll Pinterest wedding photo inspo when he walked in, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up, carrying the folder like it was a winning lottery ticket. "You already looked at this?" he asked, voice casual but eyes sharp. I looked up, smiled that soft, trusting smile I'd perfected. "Yeah. Dad's lawyer called me earlier, said everything's standard. I signed my copy already. Just waiting on yours." He flipped through the pages, scanning fast. I watched his shoulders relax millimeter by millimeter. When he reached the end, he exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for months. "Baby," he said, coming over to kiss the top of my head. "You have no idea what this means to me." I tilted my face up for a real kiss, slow, sweet, the way he liked. "It means we're really building something together. No more whispers, no more doubts." He pulled me onto his lap on the couch, arms tight around me. "I'm the luckiest bastard alive." I laughed lightly, resting my head against his chest so he couldn't see my eyes. "Speaking of lucky, I've been thinking about something." He stroked my hair. "Yeah?" "You know how we talked about diversifying, getting into something with higher upside?" I kept my tone dreamy. Ade like I was sharing a silly fantasy. "I got this email from an old college friend who works at a boutique VC firm. They've got an exclusive deal, private placement in a biotech startup that's about to get FDA fast-track approval for a cancer drug. They're saying 300% return in 18 months, minimum. It's capped at $10 million. Invite only." Daniel went still. I could feel his pulse kick up under my cheek. 300%? He repeated, trying to sound skeptical but failing. I know it sounds insane, but they sent me the term sheet and the due diligence packet. My friend's putting in 7 figures herself, said it's the kind of once-in-a-decade thing." I pulled back just enough to meet his eyes, wide and earnest. "I was thinking, maybe we could do it together? Use some of the liquidity from the trust now that everything's joint. Make it our first big move as a real team." His jaw worked. I could practically see the calculator in his head spinning. 10 million in, 30 million out. Enough to disappear forever after I was gone. Enough to buy silence, new passports, a villa in Lisbon. Enough to make Lily's kid grow up with private jets instead of public schools. He licked his lips. "How much are you thinking?" I shrugged, innocent. I was going to put in 5. But if you wanted to match, or even go bigger, we could leverage a little. The firm's offering preferred terms for larger commitments, and since the house and accounts are joint now, it'd be easy to move the funds. He stared at me for a long beat, searching my face for cracks, finding none. Then he smiled, slow, predatory. The smile he thought I'd never see through. "Let me look at the packet," he said. "If it checks out, yeah, let's do it. Let's go big." I beamed, threw my arms around his neck. "Really? Oh my God, this is going to be amazing. Our future just got so much brighter." He kissed me hard, hands roaming, already imagining the payout. I kissed him back, matching his hunger. What he didn't know, what he'd never suspect, was that the biotech startup didn't exist. The email had come from a burner account I'd set up. The term sheet was a beautifully forged PDF I'd paid a dark web contact $3,000 to create. Logos, watermarks, everything. The due diligence packet was laced with just enough real-looking data to fool someone who wanted to believe. And the wire instructions? They led straight to an offshore account I controlled, layered through 3 different shell companies, each one registered in a jurisdiction that laughed at subpoenas. When he transferred the money, his money, my money, our joint money, he'd be wiring it right into my trap. No violence, no poison, no messy accidents, just greed, pure, blinding greed. The same weakness he'd counted on to kill me would be the thing that gutted him instead. Financially, legally, publicly. I'd let him chase the phantom 300%, then I'd pull the plug. Watch the margin calls come in. Watch him scramble to cover. Watch him beg for loans from people who don't forgive. Watch him realize, too late, that the only person he'd ever really married was the one who'd been waiting to collect. I pulled back from the kiss, touched his cheek. "I love you so much," I whispered. He grinned, eyes glittering with dollar signs. "Love you more, baby," I smiled back. "Not yet, darling, but soon, very soon. You'll love what comes next." He took the bait faster than I expected. 2 days after I handed him the forged term sheet and due diligence packet, Daniel was already on the phone in his office. Door cracked just enough for me to hear the low, excited tone he used when he thought he was winning. I stood in the hallway with a laundry basket, pretending to fold towels, ear tilted toward the gap. Yeah, 5 million from the joint account to start," he was saying. "Then another 3 from the line of credit we just opened on the house. I'll wire the rest by end of week once the margin loan clears." A pause. Whoever was on the other end, probably one of his business contacts, must have asked about collateral. Daniel laughed, that sharp, confident bark. "No sweat. The trust's liquid enough, and the beach house appraisal just came in at 12.8. Worst case, we flip it quick if we need liquidity. But trust me, this isn't worst case. This is 300% territory. We're talking generational wealth in 18 months. I could picture his grin, wide, predatory, the same one he wore when he proposed. He hung up, and I waited exactly 30 seconds before walking in with a fresh coffee for him. "Everything okay, babe?" I asked, setting the mug on his desk. "You sounded excited on the phone." He spun his chair toward me, pulled me onto his lap like I was still his prize. "Better than okay. That biotech deal, it's legit. My guy at the firm ran the numbers. FDA filings public. Phase 3 data looks bulletproof. I'm going in heavy. We're going to be set for life." I widened my eyes, let my mouth part in delighted surprise. "Really? How much are you putting in?" 8 to start," he said casually, like 8 million was pocket change. "Pulled from the joint accounts, plus I'm taking a margin loan against the house equity. Low interest for now, prime +1. Once the returns hit, we pay it off in a heartbeat." My stomach didn't even twist. It was too perfect. I wrapped my arms around his neck, kissed him slow and deep. "You're incredible," I whispered against his lips. "I'm so proud of you. Of us." He kissed me back harder, hands sliding under my shirt, already high on the fantasy payout. "This is just the beginning, baby. You and me. We're unstoppable." I smiled into the kiss. Let him think he was the one in control. Not what he didn't know. The biotech startup was a ghost. No FDA filing, no phase 3, no company, just a slick website I'd paid to keep live for another month and a burner phone number that routed straight to voicemail. The margin loan he was so proud of? It was a high-risk, adjustable-rate line tied to volatile market indexes, designed to call if the collateral dipped even slightly. And since the investment would never materialize, there'd be no returns to cover the interest, let alone the principal. The joint accounts he'd tapped, already flagged in my private ledger, every transfer time-stamped, every withdrawal screenshot saved. When the time came, those wires would trace straight to the offshore shells I controlled, shells that would vanish the second I triggered the dissolution. He was borrowing against our house to fund a scam I'd created. He was leveraging my inheritance to chase a mirage I'd painted. And the second the first margin call hit, probably in 30 to 60 days when no dividends appeared, he'd be underwater. Desperate. Forced to sell assets at a loss, borrow from shadier sources, maybe even dip into the life insurance cash value he'd quietly increased last year. Greed had always been his fatal flaw. Now it was the noose. I slid off his lap, smoothed my shirt, and gave him one last adoring look. I'm going to make us dinner to celebrate. Something special. He grinned, already back on his laptop, typing transfer instructions. You're the best wife a guy could ask for. I paused in the doorway, turned back with that soft, innocent smile. I know, I said quietly. Then I walked away. On down the hall to my office. I locked the door, opened my laptop, pulled up the encrypted folder labeled Evidence Final, added today's audio clip from the hidden mic in his office, his exact words about the margin loan, the house equity, the generational wealth. Then I drafted a single email, unsent, addressed to my father's attorney with CC to a forensic accountant I'd hired last month. Subject: request for immediate asset freeze and fraud investigation body. Per attached recordings, bank records, and forged investment documents, Daniel, last name, has engaged in systematic financial manipulation and attempted fraud against the family trust. Evidence includes, I hit save as draft. Not yet, but soon. From this moment forward, every step he took was deeper into the trap. Every dollar he borrowed tightened the knot. By every lie he told himself about the payout pushed him closer to the edge. He thought he was climbing. He was falling. And when he hit bottom, broke, exposed, begging for mercy, he'd look up and finally see me standing at the top of the hole he'd dug. Not crying, not screaming, just watching, calm, patient, victorious, because greed kills. And I was about to prove it. One margin call at a time.